and welcome back. It is a great pleasure as always to be with the brilliant EuRA Board, just catching up with what's going on, obviously, for all of us across Europe. And it's a measure of how quickly I think things are changing, that in only 2 weeks since we last caught up, things are moving again. Michelle, from the optimism and joy that is Denmark, how are you?
I am good, thank you, Dom. Feeling very blessed. The numbers in Denmark are stabilizing, and we are testing over 20 to 25,000 people daily, all over across the country, and yeah. Schools are back in session. Their classes from 9 and up are having some things at home online, but it's funny, they held a protest in the second largest city, Aarhus. I think I mentioned this in the last interview, sorry. It's repeat, but they did a socially correct distancing demonstration, young kids saying, we want to go back to school, we will social distance in school, we're wearing masks, we're doing everything right, we're tired of being at home. So they really want to go back. I think everybody a lot of people are back at the office, maybe not full time, maybe 1 week on, 1 week off, depending, like for example, on our team, when there were too many in the office, one person would work from home. Now we've just got some more office space so we can have good social distancing. So yeah. So, and there's been, I'm working on an RFP. So there's things, it seems like things are moving normally
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great to know. It's great to know, because it's a very different picture right now across the place, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm just feeling very fortunate and blessed that it does go well here.
That's nice to know. That's cheered me up. And Susanna, I'm going to come to you next, because we spoke last week doing the contrast between, what's the almost opposite ends of the spectrum with how things are going. How are things in Spain, and how are you all feeling at the moment?
Things in Spain are concerning in a way, because we are having a lot more people, especially in the bigger cities, that are getting the COVID, and they are less affected. The way they're getting it is less brutal than there was. It seems that the second wave is a bit less strong. But we're getting a lot of it. So partly that's to do with the fact that we're having tests that we never had before. So that's proving that a lot of people can show that they've got it, even though they're asymptomatic. But our hospitals, for example, have got a lot of people in them, and routine operations, for example, are being postponed because they need the space just in case. Schools in theory are going back. They're going back in a organized manner. So the little ones will start, and they will be there all the time. But many of the others are going to be either homeschooling or partly homeschooling, partly doing it at school, so that they can get a bit of both worlds. But generally, I think people are concerned. I think until now it's been summer and we've been on a holiday mode, and I think a lot more people are being affected than we think. So there is a bit of concern. But other than that, I mean, for example, the business is okay at the moment, and we're coping. Some, for example, the social security is still not open to the public, so you have to do it all telematically. But yeah, the mood is somewhat concerning at the moment.
I am sorry to hear that. We all thought things were kind of moving in the right direction, and in some cases they clearly are. And you do kind of wonder, is this a combination of greater testing versus the media still? I mean, who knows? If I can come to your near neighbour, not in this square, but in terms of Spain and Portugal, Isabel, how are you, and how are things in Portugal? I mean, countries right next door to each other, but the picture's very different, right?
Yes, not only picture is Hi everyone. Picture is different on one hand, and on the other, worldwide there are different ways of measuring different numbers of people tested. So in that sense, I don't think Portugal is any different, right? We hear a lot of things in the media. I confess I've given up analyzing numbers per se. What we see here as the main concern now is the return to school, because I would say vast majority of Portuguese women work. So we're a dual career society, and if kids don't go back to their normality in schools, then that will affect everything down the chain, of course. As of now, it is the intention of the government that schools go back to normal. They resume in Portugal. The public system resumes only mid-September, as opposed to international schools will have resumed today or during this week. Work-wise, we see a lot of companies doing rotational work, and a little bit according to to the employee's needs. Yeah, and from the work perspective, I think from the human side, it's been hard to see how families have not been able to join each other. We have assignees desperate because they're either teenage children or young adults studying abroad, and they were meant to come over for the holidays or to join them a bit later. I mean, all this impact from border closure and travel restrictions has really been what's been keeping us very, very busy in trying to, on one hand, be updated on a daily basis as to advise better, but also the human side of understanding the frustration and how immigration has such a huge impact on people's lives, and how all the consulates all over the world have different timelines and opening times, and yeah, that's the human and professional side of it. But I think we will live on a week-by-week basis as the rest of the world.
It's so true, isn't it? And I mean, we're still in this place where, you know, planning is really, really tough. Isabel Klingel, how are things in Belgium? It's lovely to see you. Sorry, I surprised you.
I was on mute.
How are
Hi,
you?
everybody. I'm good. I'm really good. So sharing a little bit a mix of Denmark, Spain, Portugal. So the figures in Belgium are going down. So we had a peak, but now it's under control. Like in Spain, we have a lot more testing than we had, and a lot of people are positive, but they have no symptoms. So that's a little bit difficult to understand how things are doing. Also, a lot less people in the hospital, so it seems that it's less aggressive, or it's just it's a different wave than we had the first one, which means that actually we don't have any more lockdown. We don't have, I mean, we do have restriction. We need to wear a mask, but school are resuming today. From 3 to 18, everybody's going to school almost on a daily basis. So they're following normal class. When it goes to university and so on and so forth, they're going more into virtual system. So I'm waiting for my daughter coming back from the first day, so I'll hear how it is there. So we'll see that. In terms of business, I mean, it's long. I mean, we've been you know, working on a different ways and insecurity since March. So I understand that from the teams, it's getting a little bit hard, you know, not being able to come, you know, every day to the office, having to work from home, clients saying we are coming, but we are not coming, then we're coming. So I mean, it does put a lot of pressures on the team, but they're all very positive. We know we're going to get through. It's just a matter to know when. Business is not what we've had last year's, but I mean, we still have new clients coming in. We do sign new clients. We do offer services. We're very lucky to have a lot of pharmaceutical company as clients, so that helps because they can come, they can travel, there is no restriction for them, so that's good. So that keeps also the good vibe in the team. So we'll see, but like Isabel said, we're taking week by week, and we see what's next week's gonna give us.
It's good to hear that things are sort of on the up and that you're all still positive. This is what's very important because, like you say, it's not being able to plan is, pretty tricky. But it's interesting how that's an individual thing. Sophie, I was going to ask you, A, how are things in Germany, and B, how are you with this whole not being able to plan anything? Are you good with that?
Are you referring to something?
No, I'm hopeless at not being able to plan. But yes, what we were talking about earlier in terms of a board meeting, for example.
No, I think that Germany is still a fairly good place to be amidst all of the craziness. However, we do have a very big population of people that believe Corona is a hoax, and this weekend decided to storm parts of the governmental buildings in Berlin, violently and non-violently. So I'm not particularly, well, that's just a side of society that at the moment is casting quite a dark shadow on a lot of parts of Germany. The German government has advised all of us to basically not travel, and if we travel, to avoid going to high-risk countries. If we do, we will need to quarantine, and I think that the German government has realized that they just can't have testing stations at every single German airport and test hundreds of thousands of people every week, because at the moment we don't really know who's going to pay for all of that testing. So they've now said that if you come from a high-risk country, or if you travel to and then return from a high-risk country, you will, as of October, need to do 14 days quarantine, unless you can get tested, in which time they might still require you to do 5 days. So they're still thinking about what they're going to do, but of course that will have quite a significant impact. And I mean, other than that, I think, yeah, business is probably as good as it could be in COVID-19 times. We're spending a lot of time sort of redesigning the office space and who's going to come in. And for a company, Germany traditionally wasn't a very home office based country, and now we're all at home. And do we create home office policies, or do we have them rotate weekly? What are we going to do? Do we have room dividers or cubicle? I mean, how are we going to implement it so that we can have the highest number of people in the office safely? And also, what, of course, does the team want? So that's just keeping everybody busy. And other than that, I just hope that at one point everything will be, even if it's a new normal, that there will be some normality.
Exactly, and an ability to plan. Thank you very much. Good to hear from you. And the denial thing is extraordinary. I saw that on the news, and it's kind of spreading across the world. If I may, Irina, can I come to you next? It's great to see you. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good as I guess it can be in these times. And when you look at COVID numbers, these are fairly stable and even decreasing to a certain extent in Russia.
You're going up and down a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll see. One second.
Okay. No, it's worse.
No, really?
No, that's better.
Yeah. All right.
Let's keep going.
All right.
So how are the numbers? You were talking about the numbers.
Yeah, well, the numbers are fairly good. I mean, they've been quite stable in the past actually month, and they've been going down. So, and there are, supposedly there are a lot of tests being done. So it all seems good when you look at the numbers. At the same time, there is a lot of talk and a lot of expectation of the second wave coming in. There is a lot of concern about people there's a lot of domestic travel, especially for holidays and everything. There is a lot of concern of these people. There's almost no quarantine rules for those returning back from vacations. So as a company, you actually need to make your own decision how you want to deal with your employees who've been traveling and coming back. It's interesting when you go into the city, it looks as almost business as usual.
Really?
Yes, there is a mask requirement, but it's very, I would say, very few people actually wear masks. The weather has been great, and everyone's hanging out outside on the terraces, and it looks actually for a moment you can actually forget, you know, that something's crazy happening. So that's really weird. It's a very weird feeling, to be honest. Yeah. At the same time, sort of, well, schools resumed today as usual, so all the kids went to school. Different schools in different ways. So some, for example, the grades now start. They have their own times for the classes, each within like 15-minute difference. So you don't have all the kids at the same time for the break in between the classes, and they don't have to come to school at the same time. So this kind of makes sense. International schools, they're switching. They're doing 1 week in school and 1 week virtual, and they have broke the class in 2 parts. So apart from that, really, like, the schools went back 100% back as usual. So we'll see the impact of that. Work-wise, the most difficult thing for us is the business. No international flights. These have not been resumed at all, except for the UK, Turkey, Tanzania, and Switzerland. So these are the only countries where we have the flights with. But it's still, immigration-wise, it's very complex, because they've you can come for work, for tourism, you can come for business and for tourism, but if you want to apply for a work permit or a work visa, you have to get an extra 3 steps of approvals within the ministry that is overseeing your business, within this and that, and it's there are no it's just the law is out there, but there is no actually explanation of how it's practically needs to be applied. So each and every ministry applies it in their own way. Each and every office applies it in their own way. So it's a bit of a mess, to be honest, and it takes time. And sort of the customers want to come. Well, my sort of phrase that the business is very much up in the air. It's impossible to forecast at all. So even if this week or this month things look good, it does not necessarily mean that tomorrow it's going to be even the same, or next week. So it's weird. It's getting very tiring, and well, the team is getting more and more tired.
Yeah.
And it takes more and more of the management to sort of keep up their spirits.
Yeah.
Less and less things to keep them up with.
Yeah.
Very
tough.
So, but when you look at just the figures, it's okay in all the situations. We had a very interesting actual project the other 2 weeks. We had a client who brought quite a big group of people, which were supposed originally to relocate for assignment here. But now they're in the works of changing their policy that these people are coming here for 2 months to sort of plunge into the whole corporate culture, meet the people, know the market, be there for 2 months, and go back and work mostly from home. So this is how they're slowly changing their mobility program. So that was really new. Very interesting that this was the first sort of proper COVID impact on how the companies are actually handling things, at least a little bit. Well, hopefully it's not going to continue. This is just a try out for this time period. But we'll see. Yeah.
Thank you, Irina. It's lovely to see you. I'm sorry that the internet was going up and down there, so I'll see what I can do to boost that when we do the recording.
All right.
Thank you. It's good to see you as always. Pierre, how are you? I mean, Switzerland, every time we've spoken, has been, you know, pretty ahead of the curve. How are you doing now? Oh, sorry, I can't hear you at all. I think you're on mute.
Things are doing okay. I mean, out of a population of 8 million, 1 million people have been tested. So it's a pretty high proportion. And out of that, 40,000 people have been tested positive. We've seen, like many other countries, the return of the pandemic, but at a low level. And we've very few people going to the hospital. So that's very fortunate. It's a bit like in Belgium and in other countries, as we all discussed and mentioned. Regarding, now there's some concern though regarding the situation in the neighboring countries, because the Swiss economy is very much dependent on what we call cross-border people, particularly from France. Every day, for example, in Geneva, there are 80,000 people coming from France to work in Geneva. And the issue is that the infection ratio is increasing in France, or has been increasing over the past 2 weeks. And the Swiss Confederation is thinking about closing the French border or putting quarantine. But it creates an issue, because the issue is when if these people can't make it, the economy is in trouble. So they're still not making any decision, but that's a risk. A few people have to be in quarantine, because there is a list of approximately 50 countries that is changing on a weekly basis. Wow. Based on the contamination rate in every country. The good news is that people are getting their visa and are starting to come to Switzerland. So in terms of activity, this is pretty good for us. Then we are busy. In terms of new initiations, we have seen a drop in August. We were very happy regarding the month of July. But clearly August shows a reduction and a significant decrease compared to last year, where for example, July and June, we were online with last year. The revenue remains okay. As I think it's Sophie, we said in the situation we're facing with COVID, we have no reason to complain, and we keep receiving support from the Swiss authorities. So that's the situation right now. It seems that the economy, there have been a few surveys that have been done. The Swiss economy is one of the most resilient economies in the world so far. Of course, a lot of medium-sized companies, so it makes a very resilient economy. So we are optimistic, even if we see a decrease in the gross national product. However, the Swiss finance remains sound, which helps in the support that the Swiss Confederation can provide to the economy and companies like ours. So I think we've no reason to complain, but we need to be vigilant, because we are seeing that we see a drop in the activity all across the board. We see, for example, even like I was talking about cross-border people, traffic remains light, which means less people are crossing the border. And, there is an issue with cross-border people. When they work from home, they work in an EU country. And if they spend more than 1 day a week at home, normally the social charges have to be paid in the country where they live and where they work. There has been an exemption that has been decided between France, Germany, and Switzerland. And that exemption was valid till end of August. So a lot of companies were freaking out in a way. Now it has been extended to end of December. But that creates, of course, new kind of issues in terms of compliance, regulations, insurance, to have people working from home, but in another country. It's like, imagine, Irina, that you were workers working in a Russian company, but living in I don't know, in Sweden. That's approximately the same issues. So fortunately, they've extended the exemption. But because, you know, as I said, the Geneva Canton is 500,000 people, and 80,000, so more than 10%.
Wow.
Of the population is coming to work from neighboring France. So that's a major impact on what is going on right now in Switzerland.
Thanks, Pierre. Yeah, that is a whole other dimension, isn't it? I know when I've spoken to like Isabelle Primont and I spoke to Stéphane Compan, the same kind of thing between Benelux as well, really unbelievably complex. Alistair and Simon, I'm going to come to you jointly, if that's okay, talking about the UK. First of all, I want to ask you individually how you are. Alistair, you are sporting quite the injury. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks. I fell off my bike on Saturday and ended up in hospital with concussion. So yeah, if I talk more rambling nonsense than normal, I'm going to blame it on that. I was trying to use that throughout the weekend with my family, saying, well, it's probably the concussion, but it only lasts a certain amount of time, I think, before we have to take responsibility.
Families are notoriously unsympathetic, I agree.
Absolutely right, yeah.
And Simon, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah,
good.
I haven't fallen off my bike, so that's a good thing.
You don't have that excuse.
Oh well, no, I ride a bike in a gym as opposed to out on the dangerous road.
Idea.
So you see, there's a
good idea.
There's a learning there for everybody, I think.
So tell me, I mean, whoever wants to start first, how are things in the UK? I mean, last time we spoke, we were all feeling a little bit tired, but how are things right now?
I can start. Yeah, I think things are probably the same. Everyone's probably feeling a little bit tired. I think it's really interesting hearing other perspectives from other countries because there are lots of similarities. Interesting to hear Isabelle say that she's actually had enough of trying to find reliable data, because I feel the same way. I think it'd be great to have a reliable source and a trustworthy source of media to go to for information, and it's proving to be increasingly frustrating. And any kind of decisions we make as a company, or that are being made as a country, should be reliant on data and accurate numbers, and I'm not sure we're getting that, which is frustrating. I also think it's really interesting to hear that Sophie was saying how she gets a bit frustrated with the hoaxes and the demonstrations that are happening in Germany, which makes me actually feel slightly better that it's not just us, that we're not the only country with strange protests of people saying the whole thing is a hoax, which is kind of beyond belief. But in general, I'd say, yeah, infection rates are still not where they should be, but number of people in hospital and number of people on ventilators is actually a lot lower than it has been before. So there's kind of two schools of thought, one thinking we're opening up too quickly, and the other saying now's the time to just get on with it and get back to work and get out and about. So depends on your own individual attitude to risk, I would expect. And the other big thing that's happening is that schools go back this week. So for me personally, it means my wife goes back to work tomorrow, my children go back to school on Thursday, so I might be able to do some work without music in the background and interruption. Right. So
it's not dropping out all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say the same thing, that the kids go back to school, and I think that will be a culture change, because they're expecting all the children to go in all the time. But the government has yet to really finalise what happens if there's more than 2 children in a particular year group who become diagnosed with COVID. How long are the whole year group going to be sent home? How long are they going to be sent home for? And it's not been, with schools starting, some are going back tomorrow. It's a bit late in the day for something to not have all the processes in place. But I think from my perspective, the biggest, we have our universities are going back as well, and Oxford, for instance, which is where I am, already the numbers are rising in terms of the COVID positive results are rising, and we're expecting about 40,000 students suddenly to arrive in Oxford, and so Oxford actually is on one of the as on the list of potentially will go into a local lockdown because of the sudden insurge of numbers. So it's I think with all the kids going back and then all the everything else, it's going to be interesting to see if our numbers remain or whether they start to go up. I think it's going to be a big test of what's going to go on.
And can I ask you both the B word? What's happening with Brexit?
The B word.
So I think there's no deal, isn't there? Aren't we all walking away merrily and just you know, shaking our heads? I think that's the latest thing, wasn't it, from both sides?
Yeah, it does seem that way. So it hasn't been at the forefront of anyone's mind, I think, for a while, but certainly is becoming that way now. And yeah, negotiations aren't going particularly well. So it does seem like, despite what UK government was saying at the end of last year, that we don't have a deal that's ready to go, and we could face the prospect of a no deal exit, which I've read some kind of doomsday scenarios that apparently are internal government documents that how the country would react to a second wave and a no deal Brexit at the same time. And yeah, it doesn't help to, if you're looking for something to be positive and optimistic about, it's probably best to avoid that.
Yeah, I read that article.
It's not great.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Food and medicine shortages and, you know, public unrest, and it's not a great combination of different events. So that's the time, I think, to move to Canada.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think that's quite good. January the 1st. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. It's great to see you. Tad, how are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
Fine.
Good. So, how's things with EuRA?
How's things with you? I think EuRA's doing okay. We've got our fall forum coming, which is a lot of preparation has gone into this and is going into it. We have finally scheduled the Seville conference to June next year from March to give us a bit of time and space between the situation today and then, gives us an extra few months, which I think is extremely positive for us. We've sadly had to reschedule or cancel the upcoming board meeting, although we may be able to do it somewhere else. We're continuing. You've got new trainings coming on board. You've got
new trainers.
Sorry?
I thought you were saying I've got new trainers. I have.
Training coming on board.
Yes, we have.
You've got your briefings that you're doing.
There's a good one coming up tomorrow.
Yes, you've got one coming up tomorrow. You're interviewing, still interviewing people. I think we're doing as much as we possibly can to keep our members as equipped as possible from our perspective. So I think we're doing all right.
I had a lovely email yesterday, actually, from one of our members in India, just completely out of the blue, saying, "Thank you, board and EuRA, for everything and keeping everyone connected," which was really nice, because everyone's facing their own dramas. Let's face it. To sit and write an email like that is really, really nice. We do have the most amazing members, I have to say, and I'm not just flattering you, the most amazing board. You always cheer me up when I'm feeling like it's not a good day. So thank you very much indeed to all of you. And I am really sorry that we're not going to see each other. Well, we might do. We might be able to put something else in place. But today was a bit of a bleak day when we realised that our board meeting might not go ahead. But we're all facing this. Come on, we're all in it in the same way together. But in the meantime, I'd love to say thank you so much, everybody. It's great to see you. And we will do the customary Zoom wave goodbye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.